The chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure built from materials that could survive the death of suns. Inside, 12 representatives sat in a circle, each one belonging to a race that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The air felt heavy with fear, though none of them would say it out loud. Supreme Chancellor Taemin stood at the center. His body was made of pure light, shifting between colors as emotions passed through him. Right now he glowed a deep blue, the color of grief. He had called this emergency meeting, and everyone knew what that meant. The news was bad. The outer rim has fallen, Taemin said. His voice echoed in every language at once, a gift of his ancient race. 73 star systems, gone, not destroyed, consumed. A hologram appeared above them, showing a map of the galaxy. Red spread across one edge like blood in water. It moved fast, eating up stars and planets as they watched. The Devourers, whispered Counselor Dayun. She was made of living crystal, older than most civilizations in the room. Her voice sounded like wind through caves. I thought they were a myth, a story we told to scare young ones. They are real, Taemin replied, and they are coming. The room erupted in panic. Representatives shouted over each other, their translators struggling to keep up. Some demanded military action. Others wanted to run, to flee to another galaxy. A few simply sat in silence, knowing that neither option would save them. In the back of the chamber, almost forgotten, sat Dr. Hyrin. She was human, though most people in the room tried to forget that fact. Humans were new to the galaxy, barely 300 years since first contact. They were young, weak, and considered mostly harmless. The elder races tolerated them the way one might tolerate a pet. Hyrin studied the hologram with careful eyes. She was a xenoarchaeologist, someone who studied dead civilizations. She had spent her life digging through ruins, learning about the races that came before, and she had seen something in those ruins, something that the elder races had missed. We cannot fight them, said Admiral Cross of the Vryn Empire. He commanded the largest fleet in the galaxy. Our weapons do nothing. We hit them with planet killers and they just grow stronger. They eat energy. They eat matter. They eat everything. Then we collapse the space around them, suggested another counselor. Trap them in a dimensional prison. That would cost us half the galaxy, Dayun said softly. Trillions would die. Better than everyone dying, Cross snapped back. Taemin raised his hand and the room fell silent. There may be another option. Dr. Hyrin, please step forward. Every eye in the chamber turned to the human. Hyrin felt her heart race but forced herself to walk calmly to the center. She was used to being dismissed. Today, she needed them to listen. I found something, she began, pulling up her own hologram, in the archives of the precursor sites on Velen 7. Most of it was corrupted, but I recovered this. An image appeared, a symbol that made several counselors gasp. It showed a small blue planet surrounded by a glowing barrier. This is a quarantine marker, Hyrin explained. The precursors used them to seal away dangerous anomalies. This particular seal has been active for over 10,000 years. What does this have to do with the Devourers? Cross demanded. I cross-referenced this symbol with other precursor sites. It appears in their warning texts, always connected to something they called the ones who break reality. I believe they were referring to a species. One they considered so dangerous that they locked them away from the rest of the galaxy. You are saying the precursors, who built weapons that could crack planets, were afraid of something? Taemin asked. Not just afraid, terrified. Hyrin pulled up more data. Every reference I found describes this species as adaptive, relentless, and impossibly violent. The precursors tried to study them, and several research teams were completely wiped out. Not killed, wiped out as if they never existed. Where is this sealed world? Taemin asked quietly. Hyrin hesitated. She had known this moment would come, had dreaded it. The coordinates match Earth's star system. The silence was absolute. Several counselors looked at Hyrin as if she had grown a second head. You are saying humans are these reality breakers? Cross laughed, a harsh sound. Humans? Your species can barely travel between stars. You have no natural weapons, no telepathy, no energy manipulation. You are among the weakest races in the galaxy. That is what I thought too, Hyrin admitted. But then I kept digging. I found records of human history before the precursors sealed the system. They were in their Bronze Age, primitive by any measure. But somehow they killed a precursor war construct. Impossible, Dayun said flatly. I have the records. The precursors sent a construct to study early humanity. The humans worshipped it as a god. Then it demanded sacrifices, and the humans killed it. With bronze weapons and wooden shields, they destroyed something that had ended civilizations. The precursors were so disturbed that they sealed the entire system and tried to slow human development from outside the barrier. They tried to fix humanity, Taemin realized. To remove whatever made them dangerous. Yes, and according to the final report I found, it did not work. Humanity just adapted to every change. The precursors gave up and decided the only solution was eternal imprisonment. The council sat in stunned silence. Hirin pressed on, knowing she had to convince them now or never. There is more. I found prophecies from 6 different extinct civilizations. All of them talk about the Devourers. And all of them say the same thing. That when the Devourers come, only the caged ones can stop them. You want us to release them, Daun said. You want us to break a precursor seal and unleash something so terrible that beings who could reshape reality itself chose to hide it away forever. I want us to survive, Hirin replied. The precursors are gone. The elder races are dying. The Devourers cannot be stopped by conventional means. We need something unconventional. We need something the universe has never seen before. We need monsters to fight monsters, Taemin said quietly. The vote took 3 hours. Arguments raged back and forth. Some counselors threatened to leave the coalition entirely rather than agree to this madness. Others sat silent, contemplating their own extinction. In the end, the count was 7-5 in favor of breaking the seal. Taemin looked at Hirin with eyes that held the weight of eons. I hope you are right about this, Doctor. Because if you are wrong, we will have doomed ourselves for nothing. And if I am right, Hirin asked, then we will have given the galaxy something worse than the Devourers, and we will spend the rest of our days wondering if we made the correct choice. Within an hour, a stealth ship launched from the station. Its captain was Jiwoo, a member of the aquatic Delphine race chosen for his skill at impossible missions. His orders were simple and terrifying in equal measure. Go to Earth, make contact with humanity, and beg the caged monsters to save them all. As the ship vanished into the darkness, Daun turned to Taemin. The precursors locked them away for a reason. Yes, Taemin agreed, his light flickering with uncertainty. We can only hope that reason does not destroy us all. Captain Jiwoo had seen many strange things in his long career, but nothing had prepared him for the moment his ship crossed the invisible line into Earth's star system. 1 second his sensors showed empty space. The next, they were screaming warnings as something ancient and powerful recognized his presence. The precursor barrier rippled like water, energy patterns older than most stars flickering to life. For a heartbeat, Jiwoo thought the seal would stop him entirely. Then the barrier parted, and his ship slipped through into the most restricted space in the known galaxy. What he saw made him forget to breathe. Earth's star system was not primitive. Far from it. Massive stations orbited the third planet, each one the size of a small moon. Rings of solar collectors circled the sun itself, drinking in energy. Ships moved between planets in organized streams, thousands of them, all bearing the same strange symbol on their hulls. This cannot be right, Jiwoo muttered. His sensors had to be broken. Humanity was supposed to be limited, contained, struggling with basic spaceflight. The communication panel lit up. A voice spoke in a language his translator recognized as Korean, one of Earth's major tongues. Unknown vessel, you have entered United Earth territory. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. Jiwoo's hands moved fast across his controls, sending the coalition distress signal. It was a sequence that had not been transmitted in over 1,000 years. The universal call for help that every spacefaring civilization was supposed to recognize. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then his ship lurched as something grabbed it, pulling it toward the third planet. Jiwoo tried to resist, but his controls did not respond. Something had taken over his ship entirely. How? He whispered. Coalition technology was supposed to be impossible to hack. Their encryption had stood for millennia. A new voice came through his speakers, this one calmer but somehow more dangerous. This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the Outer System Defense Fleet. You will proceed to Mars Orbital Station 7. Any deviation from the flight path will result in your immediate destruction. Do you understand? I understand, Jiwoo replied. But please, I come with urgent news. The galaxy is in danger. Then you can tell us about it when you dock, Hyunwoo said. Until then, consider yourself a prisoner. The trip to Mars took 2 hours. Jiwoo spent the entire time watching human ships shadow his own. They were smaller than coalition vessels, built with strange angles that his sensors could not quite track properly. Some of them seemed to flicker in and out of his perception, as if they were not entirely there. Mars Station 7 was enormous, a rotating wheel that generated its own gravity. As Jiwoo's ship was guided into a docking bay, he saw armed soldiers waiting. They wore armor that looked primitive but functional, and they carried weapons that his scanner identified as chemical projectiles. Guns. They still used guns. The airlock opened and Jiwoo stepped out carefully. The soldiers did not lower their weapons, but they did not fire either. A woman walked through their ranks, older than the others, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "I am Soo-jin, Chief Diplomat of the United Earth Council," she said. "You have exactly 5 minutes to explain why we should not throw you back into space." Jiwoo told her everything. The Devourers, the falling star systems, the desperate vote, the precursor seals. He spoke quickly, knowing that every second counted, that every delay meant more deaths in the galaxy beyond. When he finished, Soo-jin studied him with those hard eyes. "You are telling me that aliens have been watching us for thousands of years? That we have been in a cage this entire time?" "Yes," Jiwoo said. "The precursors deemed humanity too dangerous to be allowed among the stars. They sealed your system to protect the rest of the galaxy from you." "From us?" Soo-jin laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We are the threat?" "According to their records, yes. Humanity is considered the most dangerous species to ever evolve naturally." Admiral Hyunwoo stepped forward. He was a large man, muscular, with scars visible on his neck. "Show me these records." Jiwoo pulled up his datapad displaying the precursor files. Soo-jin and Hyunwoo read in silence, their expressions growing darker with each line. "They tried to change us," Soo-jin said quietly. "All throughout our history, there were moments where our technology should have advanced faster, where breakthroughs should have happened but did not. The precursors were sabotaging us. Trying to slow you down," Jiwoo confirmed. "Trying to make you less dangerous. Did it work?" Hyunwoo asked. The precursors did not think so. They noted that humanity simply adapted to every obstacle. You incorporated their modifications and became stronger. In their final report, they concluded that you could not be changed, only contained. Soo-jin closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had shifted in her expression. "There is a phrase we have on Earth. What does not kill us makes us stronger. I think the precursors learned that lesson too late." Jiwoo felt a chill run through him. There was something in her voice, something that spoke of hidden depths he could not fathom. Within 6 hours, Jiwoo stood before the United Earth Council. It was a diverse group, representatives from every nation and colony in the system. They listened to his testimony in silence, asking sharp questions that cut right to the heart of the matter. Dr. Minseo, a quantum physicist, was the first to speak after Jiwoo finished. "The barrier around our system," she said. "We always thought it was natural, a quirk of local space-time. But it was a prison." "Yes," Jiwoo replied. "And now you want us to help you fight these devourers," Hyunwoo said. "After your people locked us away for 10,000 years. After you denied us the stars. After you let us think we were alone in an empty universe." "I understand your anger," Jiwoo began. "You understand nothing." Hyunwoo's voice cracked like a whip. "Do you know what it does to a species to think they are alone? To look at the stars every night and wonder why no one is out there? We built telescopes that could see to the edge of the universe, and we found nothing. No signals, no life, nothing. Do you know how many people killed themselves because they could not bear that loneliness?" The chamber fell silent. Jiwoo had no answer. Soo-jin stood, her voice calm but firm. "Captain Jiwoo, please transmit a message to your Supreme Chancellor. Tell him that humanity hears his plea. Tell him we understand the threat. And tell him that we want to know one thing before we decide." "What is that?" Jiwoo asked. "Why should we help the people who imprisoned us? Why should we risk our lives for civilizations that feared us so much they locked us in a cage and threw away the key? Give us one reason why we should care if you all die." Jiwoo thought of his home world, covered in oceans of liquid methane. He thought of his children, swimming in the deep trenches where his people lived. He thought of every world, every species, every life that would be consumed if the devourers were not stopped. "Because if we fall, you will be next," he said quietly. The barrier is broken now. Your system is no longer hidden. When the Devourers finish with us, they will come for you, and you will face them alone with no allies, no support, no chance. We are not asking you to save us. We are asking you to save yourselves. The council members looked at each other. Unspoken words passed between them, the kind of communication that only comes from shared history and shared suffering. Finally, Hyun-woo spoke. We will send a response within 24 hours. Until then, Captain, you are our guest. Try not to abuse our hospitality. 23 hours later, Ji-woo was brought back before the council. The chamber was different now, filled with scientists and military officers. Holographic displays showed star charts and weapon specifications. Humanity had been busy. Soo-jin addressed him directly. We have reviewed all your data. We have analyzed the threat, and we have reached a decision. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. Humanity will help the coalition. But we do this on our terms. We are not joining your war as subordinates. We are entering as equals. The coalition will agree to that, Ji-woo said quickly. You did not let me finish. Soo-jin's eyes hardened. We will fight the Devourers. We will use every weapon we have. We will do things that may horrify you. And when this is over, when the threat is ended, humanity will no longer be caged. We will take our place among the stars. We will explore. We will expand. We will never be trapped again. If your coalition cannot accept that, then you can face the Devourers alone. Ji-woo transmitted the message word for word. The response from Taemin came within minutes, agreed. Welcome to the galaxy, humanity. May the stars forgive us all. The coalition proving ground was a fortress system, 4 planets orbiting a red giant star. Massive defense stations dotted the orbital paths, each one armed with weapons that could glass a world in seconds. It was here that the coalition had chosen to test humanity's worth. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of her flagship, studying the assembled coalition fleet. Over 200 ships, gleaming and powerful, representing the military might of 12 ancient civilizations. They looked impressive. They looked invincible. Next to them, the 5 human ships looked like scrap metal. They were old designs built from reverse-engineered precursor technology that humanity had been secretly studying for decades. The humans had found fragments of precursor devices scattered throughout their solar system, hidden gifts from their jailers. While the universe thought Earth was primitive, humanity had been learning. Coalition Command is broadcasting on all channels, said Lieutenant Jin-ho from his station. He was one of the augmented, a soldier whose body had been enhanced with cybernetics and biological modifications. His left eye glowed faintly blue as data streamed directly into his brain. They are mocking us, calling our ships museum pieces. Let them talk, Yuna replied calmly. They will understand soon enough. Dr. Hyren watched from the observation deck, her role as coalition observer weighing heavily on her mind. She was supposed to document human combat tactics, to record how her own species fought. Part of her felt like a traitor. Another part felt oddly proud. The Devourer scouts arrived exactly on schedule. 3 of them, each the size of a large moon. Organic vessels that pulsed with sickly light. They moved through space like living things, extending tendrils that tasted the void around them. The coalition fleet opened fire immediately. Energy beams that could crack continents lanced out, striking the Devourers head-on. The weapons hit true, explosive force that should have vaporized the targets. Instead, the Devourers simply absorbed the energy. Their bodies rippled and grew, feeding on the power being thrown at them. All ships increase output, ordered the coalition admiral. More weapons fired. Railguns and plasma cannons and exotic energy types that humanity had no names for. The Devourers consumed it all, growing larger with each attack. Yuna watched the massacre begin. Coalition ships pressed their attack, moving closer, firing faster. One Devourer extended a tendril that moved impossibly fast, wrapping around a coalition cruiser. The ship's shields flared bright, then failed. The tendril squeezed and the cruiser crumpled like paper. Human vessels engaged the enemy. The coalition admiral commanded. Use your primitive kinetic weapons if our advanced technology is insufficient. Yuna smiled coldly. All ships fall back. Maximum thrust. Head for the asteroid field. Her ships turned and ran. The coalition channel exploded with angry voices. Cowards, someone shouted. The humans flee at the first sign of danger. Dr. Hyren watched the human retreat with narrowed eyes. She knew Yuna's record. The commander had won 17 battles during Earth's internal conflicts, each one against superior forces. She was not running out of fear. The Devourers followed the human ships drawn by the movement. They left the Coalition fleet behind, focusing on the easier prey. Behind them, 3 more Coalition vessels died, crushed or consumed by the relentless assault. "Entering the asteroid belt now," reported the navigation officer. "All ships maintain formation." The asteroids were thick here, chunks of rock and ice ranging from pebbles to mountains. The human ships wove between them with practiced ease. The Devourers followed, their massive bodies crushing asteroids as they pursued. "Now," Yuna said quietly. The cargo bays of all 5 human ships opened at once. Thousands of small objects poured out, each one no larger than a person. They looked almost harmless. Tiny metal spheres that scattered into the asteroid field. "Drones deployed," Jinho reported. "Targeting solutions locked. Awaiting your command." "Fire!" The drones accelerated. Each one had a small nuclear engine that pushed it to incredible speeds, a significant fraction of the speed of light. They were not elegant. They carried no shields, no weapons beyond their own mass. They were simply pieces of metal moving very, very fast. The first wave hit the closest Devourer like a shotgun blast. Dozens of drones punched through its body, creating tunnels that vented strange fluids into space. The Devourer shrieked, a sound that registered across multiple dimensions, pain and surprise mixed together. Second wave, fire. More drones launched. The Devourers tried to dodge, but they were too large, too slow. Hundreds of impacts riddled their bodies. Chunks of flesh tore away, spinning off into the void. "They are adapting," Jinho warned, deploying defensive fields. "The drones are being intercepted." "Switch to Protocol Scorpion 2, Yuna ordered. "Deploy the mines." Another set of objects drifted from the human ships disguised as debris. They looked like broken asteroid fragments, but each one contained a nuclear bomb connected to a gracer, a device that could turn nuclear explosions into focused beams of radiation. The Devourers, focused on the drone swarms, moved right into the minefield. "Detonate." Space lit up with artificial suns. Dozens of nuclear detonations created beams of energy that carved through the Devourer bodies like knives through flesh. One of the scouts split in half, its pieces drifting apart. Another lost all its tendrils, reduced to a core that tried desperately to regenerate. The third Devourer, the smartest of them, turned to flee. "Jinho, take it down," Yuna said. "With pleasure, Commander." Jinho's station lit up as he connected directly to a special drone, one of the new augmented control units. His consciousness merged with the machine, and he felt his awareness expand into the weapon itself. He became the drone, racing through space with singular purpose. The Devourer tried to escape into higher dimensional space, a trick that let them avoid normal attacks. But Jinho was augmented, enhanced with technology that let him perceive beyond normal reality. He followed the Devourer through the dimensional shift. His drone adjusted its trajectory and he struck the creature in its core. The explosion was small but perfectly placed. The Devourer collapsed back into normal space, dead before it hit the void. Silence filled the communication channels. The Coalition fleet, still dozens of light seconds away, had watched everything through sensors. 3 Devourer scouts, the same creatures that had destroyed entire fleets, had been eliminated in less than 4 hours. The humans had lost 2 ships, but they had won. Dr. Hyren typed frantically on her datapad, recording everything. Her hands shook slightly as she wrote the official observation that would be sent to the Council. Human combat doctrine does not rely on overpowering the enemy. They rely on making the enemy regret the fight. They use tactics that seem primitive, but are perfectly adapted to exploit weaknesses. They do not fight fair. They fight to win, she paused, then added one more line. The precursors were right to fear them. Yuna allowed herself a small smile as Coalition medical ships arrived to help the damaged human vessels. She opened a channel to the Coalition Admiral. Commander Yuna to Coalition Command. "The scouts are eliminated." "Your space is clear. You are welcome." The Coalition Admiral's voice came back, shaken and uncertain. "How did you know those tactics would work?" "We did not," Yuna replied honestly. "We tried something and adapted when it did not work perfectly. That is what humans do. We change, we learn. We refuse to lose." Later, as wounded human soldiers were brought to Coalition medical bays, the alien doctors discovered something shocking. The human genetic code was filled with artificial modifications, enhancements that had been added over thousands of years. The precursors had tried to change humanity, to make them less dangerous, less adaptive, less aggressive. Every single modification had been incorporated into the human genome and weaponized. The precursors had tried to fix humanity and had only made them stronger. When Dr. Hyrin heard the news, she laughed until she cried. The joke was on everyone, including her own species. The cage had not contained humanity. It had refined them, forged them, turned them into something even more dangerous than before. Admiral Jiwoo, now permanently assigned as the human liaison, read her report 3 times before sending it to Supreme Chancellor Taemin. His message was short. I have seen humans fight. I understand why the precursors feared them. I understand why we need them. But I also understand that we may have made a terrible mistake, because humanity does not just adapt to war. They make war adapt to them. And I do not think the universe is ready for what happens when they are finally free. Taemin's response came within an hour. Too late to worry about that now. The Devourers are coming and humanity is our only hope. Pray that we survive long enough to regret this decision. In her quarters, Yuna cleaned her weapons and prepared for the real war to come. The scouts had been easy, a test run. The actual Devourer fleet was still coming. Hundreds of world ships carrying unimaginable destruction. She smiled. Let them come. Humanity had been locked in a cage for 10,000 years, denied the stars, told they were too dangerous to exist. It was time to show the universe exactly why the precursors had been so afraid. Coalition Central Command was dying, not physically but spiritually, as hope drained from every being in the massive station. In the past week, 12 more star systems had fallen to the Devourers. Billions dead. Entire civilizations erased as if they had never existed. The war room was packed with admirals, generals, and strategists from every coalition species. They stood around a holographic display showing the galaxy, watching as red spread like cancer through the spiral arms. Every simulation ended the same way. Total extinction in less than 3 months. Supreme Chancellor Taemin looked older now, his light dimmer than before. Present your final recommendation, he said to Admiral Cross. Cross brought up a new display. Operation Last Hope. We evacuate the core worlds, pack every ship we can find with civilians, and run. At the same time, we collapse the space-time continuum around the Devourer fleet, creating a permanent dimensional prison. The cost will be 40% of Coalition territory, and approximately 8 trillion lives. But the rest will survive. The room fell silent. 8 trillion lives. The number was too large to comprehend, yet too real to ignore. How long do we have to decide? Asked Counselor Daun. 72 hours, Cross replied. After that, the Devourers will be too close to contain. The door to the war room opened. Commander Yuna walked in without permission, followed by a dozen human officers. The coalition guards moved to stop her, but Taemin waved them off. Commander, this is a closed session, Cross said coldly. Then open it, Yuna replied. She walked straight to the holographic display and studied it for a long moment. This is your plan? Run away and sacrifice half the galaxy? Do you have a better suggestion, human? Cross's voice dripped with contempt. Yes. Yuna turned to face the assembled leadership. Let us kill them, someone laughed. Others simply stared. Admiral Cross looked at her as if she had lost her mind. Kill them? He repeated. We have thrown everything at these creatures. Planet-destroying weapons, reality-warping bombs, dimensional suppressors. Nothing works. They consume energy. They adapt to every weapon. They are unstoppable. Nothing is unstoppable, Yuna said calmly. You have been fighting them wrong. You have been fighting them in 3 dimensions. We will fight them in 4. A new figure entered the room. A young human woman with strange eyes that seemed to look through rather than at things. Her name was Jae-hee, and she moved with the uncertain steps of someone not entirely comfortable in their own body. This is Resonance 7, Yuna explained. She is one of 43 humans born with the ability to perceive higher dimensional space. The precursors tried to breed this trait out of humanity. They failed. Jae-hee stepped forward and touched the holographic display. The image shifted, showing the Devourer world ships from a different perspective. They existed partially in normal space and partially in higher dimensions, their true forms extending into realities that most species could not even imagine. They hide in the spaces between, Jae-hee said softly. Her voice had an odd quality, as if it came from multiple directions at once. That is why your weapons fail. You are shooting at shadows. The real body is somewhere else. And you can reach them? Taman asked. I can see them. And with the right equipment, I can pull them fully into our reality. Jae-hee looked directly at the Chancellor, her strange eyes unblinking. But it will kill me, all of us. Every resident who does this will burn out within minutes. The room erupted in protest. Dr. Hai-Rin, standing in the back, felt her stomach drop. You cannot ask them to do this, she said. You are asking children to commit suicide. Nobody is asking, Jae-hee replied. We volunteered. All 43 of us. Because if we do nothing, everyone dies. At least this way. Our deaths mean something. Admiral Sung-ho, the overall commander of human military forces, stepped forward. He was an old man, gray-haired and scarred from decades of service. We call it Operation Prometheus. The resonants will be deployed on specialized ships positioned throughout the Devourer fleet. They will pull the world ships into normal space where our weapons can actually damage them. Your weapons? Cross scoffed. Those primitive kinetic drones? No, Sung-ho said quietly. Something much worse. He pulled up classified human files, documents marked with so many warnings that even accessing them was considered dangerous. During our industrial age, we developed weapons so terrible that we banned ourselves from using them. Antimatter bombs, zero-point energy devices, weapons that can tear holes in the fabric of space itself. Those are forbidden by galactic law, Da-un whispered. Your laws mean nothing to us, Yuna said flatly. We were never part of your civilization. We owe you nothing. And if breaking your laws means survival, we will shatter every rule you hold sacred. Taman studied the humans for a long moment. They stood with absolute conviction, ready to use weapons that even the most violent coalition species had deemed too dangerous. They were willing to sacrifice their resonance, their ships, their lives, all for a chance to hurt the enemy. The council will need to vote, he began. There is no time for votes, Sung-ho interrupted. The Devourers are already moving toward the core systems. Either you trust us now or you die slowly. Choose. The decision took 3 hours of heated debate. In the end, desperation won over caution. The coalition agreed to Operation Prometheus with one condition. All human weapons would be registered and accounted for after the battle. Humanity agreed, knowing they had no intention of honoring that promise. The fleet that assembled was the largest in galactic history. Over 1,500 ships, 70% human despite their smaller population. The coalition had numbers. Humanity had determination and weapons that made even their own species uncomfortable. The Devourer staging ground was a system of dead stars, a place where light itself seemed to fade. 3 world ships orbited there, each one the size of Earth's moon, accompanied by hundreds of smaller vessels. The Devourers were gathering for their final push into the heart of coalition space. All ships hold position, Sung-ho commanded from the bridge of the human flagship. Resonance, prepare for deployment. Jae-hee sat in a special pod connected to machines that would amplify her abilities. She could feel the other resonance in her mind. 42 voices all preparing for death. They were not afraid. They were angry. For Earth, someone whispered across the mental link. For everyone, Jae-hee replied. The resonant ships launched first, small and fast, racing toward the Devourer fleet. The world ships noticed them immediately, sending swarms of smaller creatures to intercept. Coalition fighters engaged, buying time with their lives. Jae-hee reached out with her mind, touching the higher dimensions where the Devourers truly lived. She felt their vast consciousness, alien and hungry, always hungry. They did not understand fear. They did not understand mercy. They only consumed. She grabbed them and pulled. Reality screamed. The Devourer world ships were dragged, kicking and fighting into normal space, their true forms revealed. They were even more massive than anyone had imagined, creatures of impossible geometry that hurt to look at directly. But they were solid now. They were vulnerable. All ships fire everything, Sung-ho roared. The combined fleet opened up with every weapon they possessed. Energy beams, kinetic rounds, missiles, and exotic bombs all struck the world ships at once. The Devourer's shields, adapted for higher dimensional attacks, failed against the multi-spectrum assault. Chunks of flesh tore away. Atmosphere vented into space. One world ship extended a tendril, wrapping it around a coalition battleship. The ship's hull crumpled and the crew died instantly. Deploy the zero-point devices, Sung-ho ordered quietly. 3 human ships broke formation, racing directly toward the world ships. On their bridges, captains who had volunteered for this mission armed the weapons that should never have been built. Sung Ho's ship was one of them. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. To anyone listening, human, alien, it does not matter. Remember this moment. Remember that we were locked away because the universe feared what we would do. They were right to fear us. We are worse to our enemies than death itself. His ship slammed into the largest world ship at full speed. The zero-point device detonated. The explosion was not loud. It was not bright. It was simply wrong. Space itself tore open, creating a temporary singularity that existed for less than a second, but consumed everything within 1,000 kilometers. The world ship disappeared, pulled into a hole in reality. 2 other world ships were caught in the gravitational distortion and dragged after it. When the singularity collapsed, there was nothing left but empty space and echoing silence. Jae-hee felt Sung Ho's death, felt 16 other resonants burn out from the strain. She cried even as she held the remaining devourers in place, even as her own mind began to fragment from the effort. The battle raged for 6 more hours. 60% of the human fleet was destroyed. The resonants died one by one, each one holding the line until their minds shattered. But when it ended, the devourer staging ground was empty. The world ships were gone. The swarm was broken. For the first time in recorded history, the devourers retreated. In the aftermath, coalition forces found something strange. The surviving devourers had left behind a psychic message, imprinted on the fabric of space itself. Dr. Hyren helped translate it. 3 months after Operation Prometheus, the Grand Council convened for the first time since the devourer threat had ended. The chamber that had once held only 12 representatives now overflowed with thousands. Every species in coalition space wanted to be present for this historic session, the session that would determine humanity's fate. The question before them was simple and impossible. What do we do with the humans? Soo-jin stood in the center of the chamber, the weight of billions of eyes upon her. She was tired. They all were. Earth's population had mourned for weeks as the names of the dead came home. 20,000 soldiers gone, 43 resonants who sacrificed everything, Admiral Sung Ho, who had become a legend in his final moments. The price of survival had been paid in human blood. Supreme Chancellor Tae-min called the session to order. His light had returned to its normal brightness, but something had changed in him. He looked at Soo-jin with what might have been respect or might have been fear. The Grand Council acknowledges the debt owed to humanity, he began. Your warriors saved the galaxy. Your sacrifices will be remembered for all time, but this council must now determine what role humanity will play in the future. A representative from the Kryn hierarchy stood, his crystalline body chiming with anger. They used forbidden weapons. They broke every law of warfare. They unleashed devices that could destroy reality itself. And you wish to reward them? Another voice, this one from the Valorian Empire. They weaponized their own children. Those resonants were barely adults. What kind of species sends children to die? The kind that wants to survive, Soo-jin replied calmly. The kind that was locked in a cage for 10,000 years while you debated whether we deserved to exist. The kind that you came begging to when your own strength failed. The chamber erupted. Thousands of voices shouted over each other. Some demanded humanity be re-quarantined. Others called for complete integration. A few even suggested that humans should lead the coalition, given their proven military superiority. Dr. Hyren sat in the human delegation, watching the chaos with sad eyes. She had spent months compiling her final report, and it had been ignored by those who were afraid of its conclusions. Now she stood and projected her voice across the chamber. I have studied humanity for my entire career, she said, and I have learned something that terrifies me. The precursors did not lock humans away because they were violent. Every species is violent. They locked humans away because humans remake the universe to suit their needs. She pulled up data, showing genetic analysis of modern humans compared to pre-quarantine samples. Look at this. The precursors tried to modify humanity, to make them less aggressive, less adaptive, less dangerous. Every single modification was incorporated and weaponized. Humans do not accept limitations. They turn obstacles into advantages. That proves they are dangerous. Someone shouted. Yes, Hyren agreed. They are dangerous. But they are also fiercely loyal to those they consider allies. Human soldiers died protecting coalition civilians during evacuations. They put themselves between our people and the devourers without hesitation. The trait that makes them terrifying is the same trait that makes them the most trustworthy allies in the galaxy. Counselor Daon rose from her seat. As the oldest being in the chamber, her words carried weight. I have lived for 27,000 years, she said softly. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. I have watched species destroy themselves through arrogance or fear. And I have learned one truth. The universe does not care what we think is fair or safe. The universe only cares what survives. She turned to face Sujin directly. The precursors locked your people away because you scared them. You made them question their own supremacy. But the precursors are gone, extinct, remembered only in ruins and warnings. Meanwhile, humanity endures. Perhaps the precursors were not gods who feared monsters. Perhaps they were monsters who feared gods. The chamber fell silent. Daeyun's words hung in the air like a prophecy. Admiral Jiwoo, now the official human liaison, stood beside Sujin. I was the first to make contact with Earth, he said. I went there expecting primitives, perhaps dangerous but manageable. What I found terrified me. But in the past 3 months I have watched humans fight and die alongside our people. I have seen their compassion and their cruelty. I have learned that they are not monsters. They are simply the most determined survivors the universe has ever produced. A young voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. Why do you fear us? Everyone turned. A human child stood there, brought by her parents to witness history. Her name was Youngsu, and she looked confused by all the angry voices. We just want to explore, Youngsu continued. We just want to see the stars. We do not want to hurt anyone. Why does that scare you? Taeyun looked at the child with her crystalline vision, seeing deeper than normal sight allowed. What she saw made her freeze. The child perceived dimensions that most species could not even imagine. Youngsu was not a resonant, not trained or enhanced. She was simply human, and human children naturally saw things that elder races had spent millions of years trying to understand. This was what the precursors had feared. Not that humans were violent, but that they were evolving toward something greater, something that might transcend physical reality entirely. Left alone for another 1,000 years, humans would not just explore the stars. They would reshape the very nature of existence. Daun shared this revelation with Taimin through a private channel. The Chancellor's light flickered with emotions too complex to name. We cannot cage them again, Taimin said aloud. Even if we wanted to, the barrier is broken. And we have seen what happens when you trap humanity. They emerge stronger, angrier, more dangerous. We have only one choice. We integrate them, teach them, guide them, and pray they remember we chose to help them. The vote took hours. Arguments continued, old fears and new hopes colliding. In the end, the decision was narrow but clear. Humanity would be granted full coalition membership with several conditions. First, all human weapons of mass destruction would be registered and subject to coalition oversight. Humanity agreed, knowing they could build new weapons faster than the coalition could track old ones. Second, humans would share their military technology in exchange for access to galactic knowledge and terraforming rights to unclaimed systems. This was acceptable to both sides. Third, a new joint organization would be formed. The Void Guard, a combined human coalition force designed to protect against existential threats. Commander Yuna would lead it. With representatives from every member species, Sujin accepted the terms on behalf of Earth. But she had one final statement for the Council. You judge us for the weapons we built, for the sacrifices we made, for the lines we crossed. You are right to be afraid, but understand this. You locked us in a cage for 10,000 years. You told us we were alone. You denied us our birthright to the stars. We became what we are because you made us this way. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we can be your nightmare or your salvation. We can be the monsters you fear or the allies you need. The choice was always yours. You chose salvation. Do not make us regret giving you that option. The council session ended with mixed feelings. Some celebrated humanity's integration. Others mourned what they saw as the beginning of their own obsolescence. But the decision was made, and history would judge whether it was wise. Captain Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of Coalition Central Command, watching human colony ships depart for distant stars. Thousands of them carrying millions of people to new worlds. The great diaspora had begun. Dr. Hyerin joined him, 2 cups of tea in her hands. She offered one to Jiwoo, who accepted it gratefully despite his aquatic biology making drinking awkward. Do you think we made the right choice? Jiwoo asked. Freeing them. Hirin sipped her tea, watching the ships go. I think we did not have a choice. Cages do not hold things like humanity. They just delay them. Better to have them with us than against us. And if they become what the precursors feared, if they evolve beyond us, leave us behind, then we will be long dead and it will be someone else's problem. Hirin smiled softly, but I do not think that is what happens. I think humanity needed to know they were not alone. That was always the real prison. Not the barrier, but the loneliness. Now they know there are others out here. They know they are part of something larger. On one of the colony ships, Young-Soo pressed her face against a viewport, watching the stars rush past. Her parents had signed up for a colony mission to a world near the Andromeda sector. It would be their new home, a place where humans and aliens would live together. Young-Soo had brought her drawing pad. She worked on a picture, using bright colors to show humans and aliens standing together under a sky full of stars. At the bottom, she wrote in careful letters, "Friends." Her mother saw the drawing and smiled. That is beautiful, sweetie. What made you think of it? The crystal lady at the council, Young-Soo replied. She looked sad. I want her to know we want to be friends. The drawing was uploaded to the colony ship's public database where it was copied and shared across the human network. Eventually, it reached coalition channels. Within a week, Young-Soo's simple drawing had become a symbol of the new era, displayed on stations and ships throughout the galaxy.